We are live, please.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold story. Let's begin. Honorable Joshua Osei, a prominent figure in the SDF, recently advocated for increased voter participation amongst Amazonian citizens, particularly the youth in Boya, stressing its significance in shaping the nation's future. However, his call to action has stirred controversy and accusations of his hypocrisy, notably amidst the ongoing struggle for independence in southern Cameroon. Joshua Osei underscored voting as a pivotal tool for the youth of Boyo to assert influence over their destiny, asserting that abstention effectively endorses the existing regime. While his message aligns with previous appeals from Roman Catholic bishops preceding forthcoming presidential, legislative, and municipal elections next year. But then Osei's stance is none but hypocritical, particularly within the context of the Southern Cameroon's fight for independence. Amazonians have wondered and are arguing that urging Southern Cameroonians to participate in the colonial government's elections contradicts their quest for self-determination. Moreover, the question of the validity of advocating for voting in a system like La République plagued with corruption and predetermined outcomes. Osei's role within the SDF succeeded Nijan Frundi's further fueled skepticism given historical electoral injustices, including the contested 1992 election. The dominance of CPDM across all branches of government perpetuates doubts about the efficacy of electoral participation in effecting change. Claims of voters' apathy as the primary political obstacle is an ignorant thing to say the least. With instances of significant voter turnout, such as the 1992 elections, where, despite high participation, the outcomes were still manipulated. Ultimately, Osei's call for participation in the electoral process underscores broader depth and broader debates about the efficacy of voting within a system that is perceived and that is flawed. Any attempts to detract Southern Cameroon's genuine quest for independence. This is something we'll look into even deeper in the course of the news tonight, but then we'll get to the prime headlines.
Bache Rose lost the 125 Momo County funds for a meeting at Ayaba Cho's Hotel in Bamenda. Now, this was done in an attempt to corrupt their minds ahead of the upcoming colonial elections. La Republic de Cameroon bans Ambazonians from holding an all Anglophones conference. An interesting read for tonight. The ills of foreign infiltration in Ambazonia, the effect of drug trafficking is on the high as it booms in Bamenda. What about rising insecurity? Well, it's been orchestrated by abductions, collection of ransoms, and it has become rampant in Ambazonia, Bamenda, Boya, even Douala and Yaoundé. Meanwhile, Joshua Osei calls the youth in Boya to vote. In his words, he says, "You have no right to complain if you do not register to vote." Of course, we know that that's all manipulations to Ambazonians. All right, on the African scene, Togo elections, surge of female candidates challenges conventional norms and expectations. Meanwhile, on the foreign scene, the Israeli defense industry sees impressive rise after the Iranian attack. Now, let's get the news in full briefings. Now, a thorn is a leader, a head traditionally responsible for a people, especially in Ambazonia. They are expected to be upright. They are expected to be focused. They are expected to lead by example. But greatness blinded some Ambazonian sons and daughters, and all they could consider is what will temporarily benefit them. These loyalists to the colonial regime of octogenarian have shamelessly betrayed the people and motherland for colonial ministerial positions. Since these fellows see the people of Amazonia only as tools for their selfish gain, they are only around from their hideout on the eve and during colonial elections. The moment these elections have come and gone, they will disappear. Large Public to Cameroon Colonial Minister are the presidency in charge of Supreme State Audit, Mbache Rose, who hails from Momo County. And today, a refugee in Colonial Yaoundé has shown her face again in Bamenda. Because of her selfish desire to secure votes for the colonial CPDM party and possibly maintain her post, she has brought together funds, sons, and daughters of Momo County pretending to love them. Are the funds not supposed to know when they are deceived? Why are they not paying attention to the detail that has been leveled there? Why has she been for 4 years and is only resurfacing now that elections are around the corner? Well, while we're asking and you trying to understand, we welcome you to tonight's Undaunted. How are you doing, sir?
Splendid, Onyi. Good evening, Ambazonians again. Well, some sons and daughters of Mumu County and the 125 funds of Mumu have been victims of Mba Acha Rose's scheme to be used and dumped, caused to leave their different localities and converge in Ayaba Hotel in Bamenda for 2 days. On Saturday, April 20th and Sunday, the 21st of April 2024. And this was just the past week. These Ambazonians were being brainwashed by the La République du Cameroon colonial minister at the presidency in charge of Supreme State Audit, Mba Charvos, for these 2 days. She tried to lure the 125 funds of Momo County with leftover monies from the colonial regime to give their votes during the upcoming colonial municipal, legislative, and presidential elections slated for 2025. Well, such a meeting can only take place in the Ayaba Hotel with the heavy presence of the La République du Cameroon's colonial military.
The in-house slave Mbache Rose is not of the Ambazonians. The land of Ambazonia is angry with them, reasons why she is a refugee in La République du Cameroon, Colonial Yaoundé. Well, as far as we are concerned, it is a disrespect. What a disrespect to the funds of Momo County that she's not able to pay a visit to these funds in their different fundum. Yet she decides with her colonial mindset and instructs the funds to gather, meet her at the Ayaba Hotel. Well, these colonial outing is a mere waste of time and resources for Ambazonians cannot be fooled again. And above all, the colonial elections will not be tolerated in Ambazonia.
Well, in another development, we have confirmed reports that say the La République has banned Ambazonians from holding an all Anglophone conference, in quote. Well, should we be worried about this is the first question. Or we should see it as a part of their normal, the regular scheme to try to prevent Ambazonians from achieving our independence. Well, for what it's worth, the appellation of the word Anglophone Conference to start with was technically forced on Ambazonians. The so-called Anglophones Conference is a name that has been forced on us by some CPDM loyalists because whenever the people of Ambazonians come to group themselves together and they call themselves Anglophones, it's already a failed meeting.
But then, by all international law and standards, they are not even known as Anglophones. They are known as Southern Cameroons. And aside that, the law gives them a right to rename themselves based on history, the map, and the origin. The Anglophone Conference has enablers like Metu. Now, these are people who led the first conference in 1994. The question is, what was the outcome? What was learned? What happened? Well, we learned a lot. Republic of Cameroon manipulated some and then it ended. Now, this senseless war came back to life in 2016 with what was called the Anglophone Consortium. Now, we understand that at this point, we clearly affirm that the era of Anglophone crisis had passed. I beg your pardon, Anglophone conference rather has passed because at this point, the consortium was made up of trade unions, teachers union, and what you can call the Amazonian professional communities. They formed this consortium and they presented themselves to La Republic to Cameroon government as a team, a professional team, a professionally organized team. And so you can see the stages and the processes that they went through.
Well, the lawyers, for example, came together under Agbabala and wrote legal documents together, same with teachers as well. Now, if you take a walk to history, you realize that the conference were on stages which eventually led to the consortium. When that didn't yield much result, it gave a rise to SCAPO. SCAPO was founded and formed with Deacon Tassin as a leader and other enablers like Cho Ayaba, and the whole idea of these CPDM loyalists was to produce federalism. Well, we can say that La Republique feels that a conference will not allow a total control on a people because they will think that they can use that to provide solution to, quote, the Anglophone problem.
Well, another challenge of the Southern Cameroons is that the colonial administration will not give them an opportunity to have any conference because the La Republique du Cameroon French colonies feels it's the federalists using the opportunity to propagate the war because the system of La Republique du Cameroon is not even democratic. So La Republique du Cameroon bans everything they think can hinder the progress. But logically speaking, people have a right to association. People have a right to movement. There is freedom to all of this, only but in La Republique du Cameroon, and is limited. From time immemorial, La Republique du Cameroon has banned any group they are not in support of. In fact, the only successful groups or associations are the ones that La Republique du Cameroon are directly benefiting from. We as Amazonians should not be bothered about Anglophone conference being banned because technically speaking, we are far above that. Now, the Anglophone movement, so to speak, is a drawback to the force that the war has now. It's leading us backwards. It is taking our history backwards. And above all, it's making it easier to accept the name, in quote, Anglophones, because that is not what we stand for. That is not the right for the struggle. Sincerely speaking, days for Anglophones conference are gone, dating back to the 90s to the 1994s. Those ones even sparked some revolution, yet it didn't yield so much fruit. So why do you think that an Anglophone conference would work now? If the teachers and lawyers in 2016 didn't do a conference, why would you think that a conference, an Anglophone conference, would work now when we are getting to the point where we want La Republic to Cameroon to come to the negotiation table?
Well, this is just a calculated agenda to unilaterally stop Amazonians from making a successful agenda and increasing colonial protocols. So they will have to dismantle any association that will encourage a reform of Southern Cameroon's agenda. They want a Franco-Cameroon's hegemony and agenda. So when a people who do not support that agenda stand, it becomes banned by the Franco Cameroon, the French Cameroons. Well, for the record, Cameroons will ban anything that will lift the Amazonian fight for liberation. So this is no surprise.
Oh, well, before we move on, we have Barrister Tim Basia in the house, and we'll know that he has a lot of contribution to do to the so-called Anglophone conference. Barrister Basia, you're welcome tonight.
Thank you for having me once more. Happy to be here. I hope you want me to talk about the so-called All Anglophone Conference. Again, We've said this before. The appellation itself is wrong, but what is the purpose of the All Anglophone Conference in the first place? The whole idea of convening something called All Anglophone Conference is to pretend to the oppressor, to Yaoundé, that they don't know what the so-called Anglophones want. They know it through us talking and through all the writings that we've sent to them. For those who don't know, the word all Anglophone has dropped from the vocabulary of our struggle since 1994. You have heard about AAC1. That was the first time the word All Anglophone Conference surfaced in our literature of liberation. And it lasted only for 1 year. Lasted from 1st of April, call it 2nd of April 1993, to May 1994. Because when the so-called All Anglophone Conference reconvened in Bamenda in 1994 May, the word All Anglophone Conference was dropped. It changed itself to Southern Cameroon's National Council, SCNC. Southern Cameroon is what we effectively call today Ambazonia. So the appellation of All Anglophone Conference is so deceitful. It has no meaning. It is meant to be a fraud. And how did it come about in the first place? This is the work documented by Mr. Dr. Munzu. Dr. Munzu was one of the chief organizers of the AAC1 in 1993. When it transformed itself into the Southern Cameroon's Not All Anglophone Conference in 1994, Dr. Munzu was the spokesperson for the Southern Cameroon National Council, SCNC, Not All Anglophone National Conference. Now, and that conference, that SCNC stood for independence. For in their declaration, call it proclamation, they said that they're asking for a federation, but that if Yaoundé did not act within a reasonable time, they were going to transform themselves into something else, reinstall our statehood, and opt for independence. That was in 1994, May. Dr. Munzu preached that doctrine. Dr. Munzu came to the United Nations with the Fonchas and the Foncha Muna, Ambassador Fossum, and others. But fast forward, Dr. Munzu has since decamped and wanted to go back to the shit that he had vomited long ago and started calling for an All Anglophone Conference. For what? We don't know. And so the All Anglophone Conference, according to him, was to redefine what we wanted. But to do it, he was so hostile. He lives in Victoria. People were so hostile to him that he thought that he was not going to succeed. So he went and sought the support of late Cardinal Tume Ndwala to use his platform as a prelate to convene an All Anglophone Conference. And then he purportedly resigned and gave the duty of spokesman for the so-called All Anglophone Conference to a certain Eli Smith, who became the spokesperson for the Cardinal Tume to preach the doctrine of All Anglophone Conference. But there again, to show the uselessness of it, they could not hold one without the permission of the colonial master, because they just forgot that the colonial master will never let you hold that. They have never permitted Anglophones to come together, call them Anglophones for this purpose. When they held AAC1, or Anglophone Conference 1, 2nd and 3rd of April 1993, was held in Buea, was held under gunpoint. The government refused to let us hold that meeting. was originally scheduled to hold in the Amphi 200 of the University of Boya. They banned it. It didn't hold there. It held, thanks to the generosity of the Bishop of Boya, then Bishop Howard Pius. That's why it held at the Kali Mission Center, Mount Mary, because government banned it. They never wanted us to sit together. They have never wanted that to happen. Came next year when the AAC, or Anglophone Conference, was to reconvene in Bamenda, where they changed their name. Government went further to ban it. It was banned. Government did not authorize it. It held again, thanks to the generosity of the Presbyterian Church. It was held at the Presbyterian Church Center in Bamenda. And so that is the history of the so-called Anglophone movement. Why do they want to hold a meeting? And what do they want to discuss? Is stale. Because if Yaoundé says that they don't know what the so-called Anglophones in quote want, they're just deceiving themselves. What they wanted in 1993, 1994, was documented and sent to Yaoundé. When the new constitution was drafted and published in 1996, Yaoundé already had all the demands of the so-called Anglophones, including the clause which said that if they did not address the issues first, they were going to transform themselves, reinstate our statehood, and move away. They had it since 1996, since 1995. They didn't care about that. They didn't include it anywhere. And so where is all this shit of Anglophone Conference? Why did we do this 2024? 5 years ago, 2019, the same thing came up there. They sought the permission of a certain Ekema, a Bear mayor, who refused to give them license to hold any meeting in Boya. And so it's a total distraction. As of now, Yaoundé, not only Yaoundé, the international community knows what the so-called Anglophones want. We call ourselves Ambazonians. Yaoundé knows those who are called Ambazonians. They know it perfectly well. Friendly countries around the world, including the United States, Great Britain, France, they know what we want. So we don't need a conference to do that. And if they don't know, if they pretend they don't know, and they are watching us, may I seize this opportunity to repeat it to them. That if they didn't know, what they want to know is that the so-called Anglophones, that is what they call Northwest and Southwest, that is what they call Anglophones, which is British Southern Cameroons. We want a reinstitution of our institutions. When Paul Biya said that they had wanted to assimilate, they had attempted to assimilate us and failed. What were they trying to assimilate? Were they trying to assimilate me and you, swallow us? No, they were trying to assimilate our institutions. How did they fail? They failed because came 2016, we started busy. The teachers that have been struggling to assimilate the education system revived. That's why I find their neighbor Phantom there. He was a teacher in the consulting. The institutions that have been trying to assimilate came up. The lawyers, which have been fighting to reinstate our legal system, survived. That's why Agwambala was there. The civil society that plays a lot of role in Anglophone system of governance survived. The teachers survived. That's why we find the Tassang and the other people who got there. So what do they want to know? And they have refused to read the science. They just denied to do it. Not that they don't know. Again, as I said yesterday, let me take this opportunity to say again, the Anglophone problem, what they call Anglophone problem, is not about coming to sit down and talk other nonsense. The Anglophone problem is the problem of assimilation.
All right. So,
It's a problem of assimilation.
okay.
And so let me just the problem is that of assimilation. The problem what we are doing now is reinstituting our institutions, which include our parliament, which include our government, which include our all what goes with with the state. That is, if they didn't know, they should know this. They will do nothing to change that fact. Those institutions belong to states. Cameroon has institutions. They have their own parliament. They have their own government. They have their own judiciary. We had one, which is swallowed, but it didn't go down their belly. That's why the attempt to assimilate failed. They vomited it out, and we are reinstating it. We have reinstated them. At least now, in the government in exile, the progress is to move to Buya and have ourselves installed physically there.
Hmm.
So the talk of all Anglophone Conference should cease to exist. We don't need it. It is not necessary. It has no reason. And we don't need the permission of Yaoundé to hold a meeting of Ambazonians. We are not like La Republica de Cameroon that will go to seek permission from Paris to come organize the Grand National Dialogue. So that is it. They didn't know. Those who are trying to organize one, they are selling after the market. The time that we sought to organize one 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, 1993, they denied us permission. What makes anybody think that they will give you the permission today? They have never granted any authority for Amazonians to meet together. Even even in 2016, when the consortium started, they did not want the consortium meeting, the lawyers and the teachers meeting together with the ones from Buya, from the Southwest, they call it. So the issue of divide and rule did not start today, but we've long since passed that mark. Over to you.
All right, Barrister Mbesia, thank you so much. While we were researching and working on this, we knew that it was going to be a walk in the park for you when analyzing, just like it is normally. All right, Barrister Mbesia, we'll definitely come back. There is a report on elections about Madam Rose, but would want you to hold on to your thoughts about that particular reaction where she's talking and taking the funds and deceiving and manipulating them right about now because of the election, because we need you to also combine that with a Joshua Osi story that we have for you. So just hold on there. I will definitely come back to you. So moving into another interesting topic for tonight. Now, just yesterday on Non-Dodged, we talked about some ills getting to the rise in Amazonia. If not children killing their parents, it's boys raping their mothers. We all concluded that these are evil acts brought upon Amazonians by the infiltration of other cultures. Specifically, we can say that the ongoing war is likely contributing to the drug boom in Bamenda and other parts of the war-torn Amazonian parts of other countries, but majorly in Amazonia. Research so far has proven that warring conflicts often lead to increased poverty, displacement, and instability, which can create conditions that are conducive to drug trafficking. In addition, the chaos and lawlessness of war can make it easier for criminals to operate without fear of being caught. This is no gainsaying that the Southern Cameroon's Amazonian war has contributed to the rise in drug trafficking in restive Bamenda and other parts of the Cameroons. And there are other factors that may contribute to drug trafficking. Bamenda is close to other local government encounters, which is a more source of drugs like heroin and cocaine.
Well, to add to that, the porous borders between the Southern Cameroons and La Republique and the Blues makes it easy for drugs to be smuggled into Amazonia, which is another factor. Poverty is as well another factor, as well as unemployment, which can lead people to become involved in the drug trade as a way to make money. And finally, weak law enforcement and corruption can create a climate of impunity where drug traffickers can operate with little fear of being caught. Information has it that on April 21st, 2024, Colonial La Republique officers from the Bamenda Central Police Station conducted an operation resulting in the apprehension of 27 drug abuse suspects, including women and girls. Well, that is just something stunning. This operation took place at a location known as Seven Door in the Old Town neighborhood of Bamenda local government area. The suspects were allegedly involved in the trafficking of hard drugs, commonly referred to as kalu, marijuana, and the possession of stolen items as well.
Emmanuel Mbok, the Colonial Republic de Cameroon Central Police Commissioner, confirmed the arrest, stating that over 20 persons were arrested. Drugs commonly called kalu and stolen items were recovered in their keepings. The crackdown came after directive issued during a security meetings with the regional delegates for national security, which dwelled on the need to combat drug consumption in Bamenda local government area. However, concerns have been raised regarding the potential complicity of security forces in the drug trade, as the Colonial Republic of Cameroon Police Chief shed light on allegation of collusion between security forces and drug dealers in Bamenda. Witnesses claim to have observed security vehicles frequenting known drug business sites, raising suspicions of corruption within the forces.
Well, that would not be surprising. But then, while some residents commend the police action, suggesting it may be linked to a refusal by dealers to pay off authorities, others demand accountability within the security forces, the colonial security forces to be precise, while calls for transparency and justice extend to those within the defense and security sector allegedly involved in drug consumption and facilitation. Responding to questions during another police operation the same day, Wilson Njume Njikang, the Colonial Republic's national security boss in Bamenda, reaffirmed the commitment to eradicate the drug trade, acknowledging its detrimental impact on youth and society. Well, according to him, Njikang, he noted that they have started the operation, which they will take to the hideouts of these drug businesses, which they have the duty to eradicate the drug businesses. While highlighting the link between drug consumption and criminal activities, Njikang stressed the importance of restoring order in Bamenda, emphasizing that a significant portion of crime in the area is perpetrated under the influence of drugs. Critics also say that the war of independence in Amazonia, which started in 2017, has exacerbated the practice in Bamenda local government area. To address the drug problem in Bamenda and other parts of the Cameroons, there are several measures that can be taken, which includes threatening border security, making it more difficult for drugs to be smuggled into Amazonia, providing economic opportunities for people who might otherwise become involved in the drug trade, such as vocational trainings or small business loans, vocational trainings like the ones that the government of Amazonia has brought before, improving law enforcement capacity and more effective combating of this drug trafficking.
Meanwhile, the rise in insecurity, kidnappings, and ransoms in the Cameroons is a troubling trend. Yesterday, we started the series with a report of Colonial DO involved in this act. There are several factors that may be contributing to this situation. One is, of course, the ongoing war in the southern Cameroons and Amazonia, the War of Independence, which has led to a breakdown of law and order in many parts of the country. This has created a fertile ground for criminal activities, including kidnappings and extortion. Another factor is the country's economic crisis, which has led to rise in poverty and unemployment levels. When people are desperate, they may turn to crime as a way to make money.
Well, the abduction of persons by law enforcement officials in complicity with civilians is the business of the day. Many citizens have been victims of the practice of Douala, Yaoundé, Boya, and Bamenda. For many years, gendarmes, soldiers, assisted by gullible civilians, kidnap innocent denizens from the streets in broad daylight and demand ransoms in their stations or brigades. Well, they come in civilian clothes, about 4 of these colonial forces, and use vehicles without number plate. 2 of the 4 individuals, gendarmes, and the others, civilians, playing the roles of informants. Well, these informants are sometimes recruited from neighborhoods, in the snacks where you drink, in the restaurants where you eat, or in some targeted communities. In the colonial towns like Douala and Yaoundé, their informants help in identifying rich Amazonians who are the newfound sources of income for this failed La Republic military, gendarmes, and police. Well, if they approach any one of Amazonians, it's better to start suspecting something abnormal happening. and the accomplice, the gendarme, leaves these vehicles, head towards you with a mission order or his weapons and handcuff. It's better you stay safe.
Well, the fidgets pretending they want to check information in people's mobile phones on the basis of acting as part of a cybercrime investigation. They would then accuse the person of being a wanted Amber boy for supporting Amber or a scam about the colonial authorities. These thieves will brutalize them and force people into their vehicles to Bonajo in Douala, where all of the gendarmes will not listen to them and will, of course, will support the false accusations made by their colleagues. The more you claim your innocence, the more you will be beaten and forced to confess in front of cameras. The pictures of your confession will be taken out in cases where the justice system later interferes. Under the threat of being held in police custody and then sent to prison, they will require you to pay the sum of 1 to 3 million francs CFAs according to your social status judged on your appearance, which is typically what we also reported yesterday.
Well, with the southern Cameroon's Amazonian war still raging on for 8 years now, the Boko Haram threats, which have put La Republique on its knees on life support, addressing the involvement of security forces in kidnappings and extortions requires a multifaceted approach because the very institutions that are supposed to protect the public are instead exploiting them for financial gain. In a broke country, that of La Republique, the so-called forces of law and order or penniless. The anti-corruption unit corrupt, the judicial system that is already broken, but leaders as well ailing and in diapers. So the innocent civilians get to pay the price of this dysfunctional country.
Well, moving on, Honorable Joshua Osei, a prominent figure in the AZF, recently emphasized the importance of voting for Cameroonian citizens, particularly the youth and boyer, as a crucial step in shaping the nation's future. However, his call for participation in the political process has sparked controversy and accusations of hypocrisy, especially considering the ongoing struggle for independence in southern Cameroon. Honorable Joshua Osei of the ADF says Cameroonians who don't vote have no right to complain about bad governance, unemployment, corruption, or underdevelopment. He said leaders like President Bobier, who has been in power for over 40 years now, have been succeeded because Cameroonians give the impression that he is the best president in the world. Well, wouldn't you find that statement quite hypocritical?
While Joshua Osei emphasized on voting as a means for the youths of Boya to shape their future, stating that abstention is seen as tacit approval of the current regime. Joshua Osei urged youths to participate in the political process to reclaim control over their future, echoing that previous offensive calls from Roman Catholic bishops ahead of upcoming presidential legislation and municipal elections next year. Well, aside the fact that it is scandalous for Joshua Osei, like the bishops in Amazonia previously, to tell the people, Southern Cameroons who are fighting for their stolen independence, to be restored to vote for the colonial government of La Republique. It is very hypocritical as well to talk about voting when it comes to La Republique that is marred by a corrupt regime that already knows its winners even before the elections kick off. Well, La Republique has never had any genuine elections, only selections. And the colonial presidential selections have moved from democracy to monarchy. So, because what so-called democracy leaves a frail dictator in power for over 4 decades with no major developments to boast of in these 4 decades. Who would believe that a frail octogenarian has been the people's choice for these over 40 years?
Well, Joshua Osei, who is an Ambazonian born and the one who replaced Nijon Furundi as the chairman of the SDF party after his passing. Nijon Furundi, whose victory in the elections of the 1992 was taken from him because of the faithful out public to Cameroon, is no Anglophone in a Judy Palace. Joshua Osei is the one who has taken the place of late Nijon Furundi, who has contested in 1992, 2004, and 2011, always coming second to the selected Paul Biya. Yet Joshua Osei is out here preaching to vote like he hasn't learned his lesson. Fact has it that the CPDM controls all 3 arms of government, the executive, judiciary, and legislative. But it is only ignorant for observers to say the opposition only chance is if the youths massively participate in the elections, because the CPDM controlling all arms of government is a structure that the non-octogenarian monarch Biya put in place to keep all Southern Cameroon's party out of power.
Well, another ignorant statement made by observers is considering voter apathy as the country's biggest political challenge, because millions of young people remain disinterested in politics. According to reports gathered by these reporters and observers, the 2018 elections, which President Biya won by 71%, witnessed just 3.5 million voters out of an estimated population of 28 million. Cameroonians. And this statistics was made as a proof to show that the ignorant statement of voters' apathy is the reason why Paul Biya is still in seat, forgetting that the 1992 first multi-party elections in the Cameroons had over 70% voters turnout, but still had 40% of votes given to the then and still present president, Paul Biya. The first election that was clearly won by Nijon Fundi but was stolen right in the faces of Southern Cameroonians. Joshua Osido, an Amazonian born, makes an example of those who we describe as from Amazonia but not Amazonian. And this call on Amazonians to vote in the upcoming elections is just to distract and dissuade Amazonians from the genuine cause of regaining their stolen independence by the French Cameroon, and subtly urge Amazonian youths to accept the corruption La République has to offer them by leaving a lie that the two Cameroons are one. And with the tenacity of the leadership of Amazonia and the never again generation, that vision is hardly likely to happen. That destruction would take a struggle to work. Well, like we brought in earlier, Barrister Tim Mbasia, I'm sure he'd have a lot to say about this particular report. Barrister Tim, over to you.
Well, once more, you see, we're dealing with novices or criminals turned into politicians. Because if there's voter apathy, which I think there is one, it is not because people have not gone to vote. Yeah, they didn't go to vote, but nonetheless, the people who are supposed to be voted are there. What OC should be asking is, for his 27 years in the National Assembly, what life has he changed? He went there in 1997 and he has been there. What can you show as a parliamentarian for 27 long years? Absolutely zero. Then Joseph Osi finds himself in Buya. In politics, in modern politics, your constituency in politics is not where you were born. It is where you live and where you are voted. Joshua Osi, though born in Dian, as you are told, I don't know whether he has ever gone there, does not owe his political career to anybody in Dian, to anybody in Anglophone Cameroon. He has lived his life, political life, in Douala. So he has no reason to come to Buea campaigning for people to go and vote. Because Buea doesn't belong to his political constituency. And so they deceive people. In their own books, they claim that once you're in parliament, you become a national politician, you become a national representative. So if voted into parliament from Douala, you automatically become a parliamentarian from Dian, a parliamentarian for Fro Awa, a parliamentarian for Mora in the north. Is that possible? How can you, going in from Douala, become a representative of people in Mora or people in Idabato? That's political scheming. That's political dishonesty. That is what it is. But why should OC come to Ambazonia to ask people to vote? We have set time without number. That as far as these elections are concerned, let it be reminded that the last time some so-called Anglophones voted fraudulently, though their system was in 2018, 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago, 5 years ago. And so we have said no to participation in the political system. So why must they campaign in Boya, in Bamenda, or even so-called Indian where it comes from? Anglophones, as they call us, Ambazonian as we know ourselves, or British Southern Cameroon as we were then, or West Cameroon, we started voting in their system since 1964. We purportedly joined them in 1961, started voting in 1964. From 1964 to 2023, it's close to 70 years. There is nothing to show for our participation in the elections. Let OC show us anything: a school, a dispensary, a borehole that we got from Parliament, that we got because we took part in the elections. Absolutely nothing. Elections have no meaning. They don't have any impact. They have nothing to do. Otherwise, how would OC explain that he was standing in Boya? They have embodied a council voted by people locally. The council doesn't even have the power to pick trash in the streets. The Hasakam that is supposed to pick trash in the streets is imposed on them from Yaoundé. And so what this council is doing? People have no water to drink in Boya. They are unable to dig a borehole as a council, as people voted in there. So what is the essence of voting? What is the essence of participating in elections that don't have any meaning in your life? As she says, those who don't participate should have no reason to complain. We are not going to complain because we are no longer part of it. We have no reason to complain because we are not part. Even if we had a reason to complain, it will be that those elections don't do us any favor. And again, how will Mr. O.C. Joshua come to Boya shamelessly, where at least the majority of people in Boya are Ambazonians who are fighting just for the right to talk, the right to exist? And Joshua O.C., as an elected person from the so-called India, went to Yaoundé, put his signature that even these very people who have escaped from the torture, from the torment in Cameroon and gone abroad, they should be arrested, abducted, and brought back to Yaoundé to be sentenced, I mean to be jailed, to be sentenced. For doing what? For daring to speak. I've not heard Joshua O.C. since 2018 complain in Parliament that the abduction of Sisiko and 10 others from Naira Hotel was absolutely illegal, internationally and locally. And if they are speaking from the house where they represent the people, the Naira 10 are all citizens of Ambazonia. If he OC, who is a leader of a political party now, who has been in the Bureau of the National Assembly, if he could not raise that even in that house, what is the reason? What is he worth remaining there? That's just us sitting there. I say LRC, one of those parties. There are people like Nisak who come from Douala. They were caught and jailed. They are still in jail for demonstrating. OC, as a parliamentarian from Douala, has not raised a finger in parliament. So what is this parliament worth? It's worth nothing to you and me. It is worth something to him because at least he has a salary there for work that he never does. Parliamentarians in Cameroon for 360 days in a year. They meet probably for 90 days at the most. And they are paid fabulous sums for 12 months. They give you money for nothing. You earn the money for doing nothing. In addition to their regular salary, they are given chunks of money. They call it parliamentary grants, for which they account to nobody. So their essence in going to parliament, or whatever thing they call it there, is to make money for themselves, not to help anybody, even from Douala. Talk less of Ambazonians. Talk less of Indian from where he comes.
All right,
So may he be reminded.
Barrister Mbesia, for a while now, both the president and every member of the cabinet, including Barrister, including you, and also Dr. Mungwa, everyone's screaming, you do not have to vote, you do not have to register. Do you think that all of the voices put together is sending the right signal down to the people to obey the voice or the laws or the laid down rules that even President Sako gave over the weekend, why they should not be part of the forthcoming elections in La Republic of Cameroons? Do you think that it is enough? That's the question. Do you think that all of these voices put together is enough to, convince or ensure that the people at the home front do not take part in the elections?
Well, I think it is enough. Who are those voting? We're not talking to babies.
Okay.
The voting age
obviously.
in Cameroon is at 20. And so we can all depend upon their knowledge. They are adults. They are adults. Yesterday, I tried to say this, although I was cut off by electricity. He said, the weapon we have to enforce the non-participation in elections is not a gun. We don't have to take guns and go and police everybody in Ambazonia to go and vote. They have the weapon in their toolbox for the reasons which you have all given why they should not take part. The weapon in your toolbox as a potential voter is to stay home. There's nothing in Cameroon law that I know that compels you to go register to vote. Nothing in Cameroon law that I know that compels you to go and vote. And so, if after all this emphasis, you decide to work with your two legs, sacrifice your time and money riding a motorbike, to go and sit there and say you're voting, if in that process you are caught under crossfire, you have nobody to blame but yourself. On our part, the part of the president, the part of the government, we can only educate you. We cannot force you. And so the message we gave, don't go and vote. And we have insisted, whoever is sent there as an official of ELECA to come and organize elections, from registration to the polling, is a criminal. You are an enabler and effectively a proper target for anything that can happen. If after hearing this, they decide to take the risk, they can all have themselves to regret. What we can do is to say it as often as we can, to say it in different languages as people can understand. And then the decision is theirs. Again, there's no way Ambazania is going to afford a policeman to stand in everybody's door. The 8 million Ambazonians, maybe there are 6, 7 people qualified to vote. We're not going to police their doors. We're not going to police their roads, their footpaths, if they have any road at all, to tell them not to vote. But we educate them. We have told them enough. Don't go. And as I said, which part of Ambazonia, any part of Ambazonia who can show up their hand that this is what we got from the National Assembly in Yaoundé. This is what we got from the president in Yaoundé for the past 60 years? Zero. So why risk yourself? Instead of calling off to go and vote, why not go and work in your farm? So that's how far we can go.
All
If you choose
right.
to take the risk, so be it. Over to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Barrister Basia. I love the fact that whenever you come on the show, you make our work even more easier with all of your historical point of view to every topical issue and report we bring to the front burner. But it's at this juncture that I will let you go, knowing that we'll likely have you next on Undaunted, because we still have the African report and the foreign reports to deliver this evening. So thank you so much for coming on tonight, Undaunted.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Well, coming up next is news around Africa. As Togo gears up for the legislative and regional elections on April 29th, 2024, a notable surge of female candidates is challenging conventional norms and expectations, with 2,348 validated candidacies for the legislative elections and 113 seats available. A total of 593 women are vying for parliamentary positions, while 438 women are contesting in the regional elections, as per data from the Independent National Electoral Commission. Amongst these courageous contenders are individuals of distinction aiming to inject fresh perspectives and foster more equitable representation within the political landscape.
Well, one such figure is Victor Dogbe, the incumbent Prime Minister of Togo and candidate of the UNIR party. During her campaign in Vaughan, she emphasized the achievements already made and the necessity of maintaining this trajectory. In her words, she says, "We're prepared to cast our votes, ensuring continuity in the progress we've achieved," declared Dogbe during a campaign gathered in the village of Kololobo, Gagnon on Sunday afternoon. Her dedication to politics has garnered praise from citizens like Azovi Garti, a local farmer who views her leadership as pivotal for the future of Togolese women. With her, the future of women is secure, remarks Adovi Garti.
Well, with her future, the future of women is secure, remarked Adzuvi Gati. Well, in a nation where female political representation often lags, opponent Brigitte Jamagbo Johnson, with over 3 decades of political involvement, epitomizes perseverance and tenacity. Through grassroots campaigning, she urges Togolese citizens to rally behind female candidates, underscoring the hurdles they encounter, including physical risk. Her message resonates as a clarion call for equal electoral participation. Engaging in politics carries significant risk, including physical ones, and she says, "We urge the Togolese people to support these brave women who have dared to step forward as candidates." In contrast, Mimi Bosu Sojede adopts a more grassroots approach, emphasizing close engagement with constituents and stressing the significance of these elections for gender parity. Her objective is unequivocal. She's talking about achieving gender balance in the upcoming Togolese parliament, and her optimism and resolve mirrors the transformative spirit driving many female candidates. She says, Mimi Bosu Sojede says that if we can attain a 50% female representation in the National Assembly, it would be a significant achievement. We aspire to join other women in achieving parity in parliament. And she firmly believes that such a change will bring positive transformation to the nation of Togo.
Well, currently, Togo boasts 17 female parliamentarians out of 91 deputies, while women constitute only 13.23% of the municipal councillors at the local level, with a mere 12 women serving as mayors out of 117 communes. The Oakland Institute, a US-based right group, has reported that the World Bank halted funding for a tourism project in Tanzania, citing its impact on tens of thousands of villagers. This $150 million project, designed to enhance natural resource management and tourism, is a remote area of southern Tanzania, was suspended due to concerns raised by the institute. They said that the World Bank's decision, though delayed, was necessary, criticizing the bank for not acting sooner. Coming up next, news across the globe. Meanwhile, Tehran's unprecedented attack against Israel showed off the country's impressive defensive capacities and capabilities, leading to hikes in stock price and billions of dollars in new orders. The world took great interest in Israel's air defense system following Iran's attack against the countries last week, drawing headlines from the US and Germany talking about Israel's technological capabilities. Officials in Israel's military complex now say Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's attack was the greatest advertising the Israeli system could get, and the statistics are there to back it up.
Well, Blinken says genocide in Xinjiang is ongoing and reports ahead of China visit. Well, Beijing is continuing to commit genocide and crimes against humanity against Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities in the western Xinjiang province, according to reports. And this was said in a report published on Monday ahead of his planned visit to China this week. The State Department's annual Human Rights Report, which documents abuses recorded all over the world during the previous calendar year, repeated language from previous years on the treatment of Muslims in Xinjiang. But the publication raises the issue ahead of delicate talks, including on the war in Ukraine and global trade between the top US diplomats and Chinese counterpart. In a preface, Blinken said the report documents ongoing grave human rights abuses in the People's Republic of China, PRC.
An Israeli attack on Israel damaged the Russian-made S-300 air defense system, according to a new report, making and marking a possible embarrassing performance for the Moscow-designed system provided to a crucial Kremlin ally. Friday's attack on Iran's damaged or destroyed an S-300 radar designed to track targets, a crucial part of the air defense system. Well, Israel launched an attack on Iran early on Friday, with explosions reported over the central Iranian city of Isfahan, south of Tehran. Air defense fired at a suspicious object near the city at around 4 a.m. local time, Iranian state media reported. A spokesperson for Iran's space agency, Hossein Dalerian, said Iran intercepted three quadcopter drones. Several reports from anonymous Western and Iranian officials have suggested Israeli warplanes fired at least one missile at Iran.
Well, with Turkey may soon put its controversial Russian S-400 air defenses in operation. Turkey may deploy these advanced Russian S-400 Triumph air defense on the Iraqi border for its planned summer offensive against the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, in Iraqi Kurdistan. Such a move will mark the first operational deployment of the missile system since Ankara received it in 2019 to Western approach. And that is all on the global news.
Meanwhile, that's all the reports we have for tonight. But before we go, let's take a recap of the major stories.
On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you Mba Acha rose luring the 125 Mumu County funds for a meeting at Ayaba Hotel in Bamenda in an attempt to corrupt their minds ahead of the upcoming colonial elections. La Republic as well banning Amazonians from holding an all-Anglophone conference, as well as years of foreign infiltrations in Amazonia, talking about drug trafficking booming in the war-torn Bamenda.
Well, tonight on Undaunted, we talked about the orchestrated abductions, collection of ransom, rampart in Bamenda, Boya as well. Also, Joshua Osi calling the youth in Boya to vote was a topical issue for tonight. We also told you on the African scene that Togo elections surge of female candidates challenges conventional norms and expectations. Meanwhile, the Israeli defense industry sees impressive rise after the Iranian attack. Well, that's all we have for you on tonight Undaunted, bringing to the news untold stories. On behalf of Still Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV Images. Good night and God bless you.